Hey, everybody, this is So Many Sequels, your book club for movies. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
This week on the show, we jump into the Oasis and discuss Ready Player One, the movie One Letterboxd reviewer called A Vision of Hell.
We talk about how the 2018 movie directed by Steven Spielberg makes you long for the 80s, but doesn't rely too much on nostalgia, and how weird and unsettling it is that some of the futuristic technology predicted in the 2011 movie has become so common.
Plus, in the spirit of game night, we talk a little bit about our history as gamers and how good or bad some of us were at Halo, not naming any names here. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, we've got all that and more this week on So Many Sequels. Be sure to check us out online at SoManySequels.com to see all of our past episodes and to check out our social media links. All right there for you at SoManySequels.com. Without any further ado, enjoy the show.
I want to talk about some. Well, what do you got, Garrett? You got
something? You go ahead. I gotta go get something. I forgot. You go.
Okay. Garrett. What? That's a weird way to spell his name.
It's gaming lingo.
Is it?
You're more of a gamer than any of the three of us.
Yeah, but I've never really been into I've never really been a part of gamer or culture, I guess. With
that's fair.
The clans and all
I'm
that.
Sure, we'll get to talk about that a little bit today on this episode.
I'm a solo gamer. I play mostly by myself, and that's it.
That's mostly how I have played growing up too, and I think that's probably because we're, right on the edge of growing up in the online multiplayer era. Mm-hmm. It wasn't as easy to do when we were kids,
No, in fact, back when we talked about, I don't think we talked about this much, but back when I was young, the only way to play multiplayer was to go over to the person's house, which many people will be able to relate to. But I remember,
couch.
I remember the cool thing about PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 2 and the first Xbox and GameCube was there was 4 ports, so you could have more than 2 players, you could have 4 players. Yeah. So that was how I kind of. So gamer tags and all that stuff and PC gaming, I never really did. I never really got into unless I was playing by myself because I didn't want to be constrained by when my friends could be online.
That makes sense.
I never had an Xbox. I was always a PlayStation person, but I remember I was always bad at first-person shooters to start with. When I played games, again, for the record, in case you're just tuning in, it's game night month here on So Many Sequels, which is why we're talking about various types of games.
Movies.
Video games, kind of a thing that is connected to today. But I sucked at first-person shooters. I was always I played baseball and football games, right? That was my level of gaming. But my friends wanted to play Halo one night, so they had me over. No one told me anything. No one told me how to play. No one told me what buttons to use. So I'm just shooting stuff and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I sucked. I got murdered over and over and over and over. And I finally got sick of it because I would respawn and then get shot in the face and die. Or I would be shooting.
Bad sportsmanship on their end.
I would be shooting people in the face or whatever. And then they'd be jumping and then they'd end up behind me. And all they would do is hit me with the gun. With the back of the gun, and I would die. And I shot them with 45 bullets, and they didn't have a flesh wound, and they hit me with the stock of their gun, and I'm dead.
Yeah, the melee button was big.
I finally started just carrying myself and jumping off the thing into the abyss, and killing myself, and I didn't know that it took negative kills away. And had I not done that and just taken the kills, they at least paired me with the best person, and if I would have just done my thing, we'd have won.
Yeah,
I remember
sabotage the whole team.
I remember Halo.
No one told me anything.
Well, that's their fault.
Halo 1. I remember I had 2 friends, and I would go over and I'd play Xbox with them, and we ended up playing Halo. And their version of having a good time was them being on a team against me by myself. So they would I basically would fight to survive. They'd kill me over and over again. Occasionally they'd kill each other. Even, like they'd even out. So like usually the ending score would be them 30 and 28 and me 2, every now and then I'd get the best of them and I'd get like 10 kills and they would be like, dang it, David did really too well on us. But my saving grace in their, class in Halo 1 was the sticky grenade. Because what I would do is as they would be shooting me, I would just get as close to them as possible, throw a grenade, stick it to them and just be like, haha, you're going to kill me, but I'm taking you with me. It was my only.
You can do a lot of damage with a sticky grenade in Halo.
Perfect.
I miss being good at that game because there was once upon a time where I was, competent enough. I wasn't like great, but better than today. Every once in a blue moon, I fired up and I'm like, I can't even play against the computer half the time anymore.
I
just lost it.
I surprisingly held on better than I thought I would. I'm in no way of like a very like a good gamer. Like I'm not good at it at all. But if I loaded up, what is it now? Halo Infinite, and I played a couple rounds, there'd be a few games where I would be either the number 2 or number 1 on my team.
Yeah.
And sometimes, so this was something that struck me is that you can play, they have the Master Chief Collection on Xbox now, which has has Halo 1 through 4.
Yep. That's
and
what
Halo Reach. And if I play free for all on Halo Reach, I actually do really well. And I don't know if it's just because the pool is not good, but I do better than I would have thought. Anyway,
you never know.
A little gamer talk for you ahead of our new game of the week.
Well,
we don't talk about games much,
Yeah, we're talking about games all month, and this is our second. I think it's video game themed. Our second video game themed movie of the month. We talked about the Super Mario Brothers already. You can go back and check that out if you missed it. But today we're going to talk about a futuristic video game movie. Steven
Is it futuristic?
Well, maybe.
The not too distant future.
Not too distant future.
Metaverse.
We're going to talk about Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One today, which came out in 2018. Ready Player One is based on a book that you can see right there if you're watching our YouTube version. Basically, in Ready Player One, if you haven't seen it, a Steve Jobs-like fictional figure creates this, what we now know as a metaverse, that is so good and so realistic and so much better than the real world because of how poorly the world has been going. Everyone spends all their time living in the metaverse. What do they call it? What's
the Oasis.
The Oasis. They're living in the Oasis. And when the creator dies, he leaves a mystical challenge to find 3 keys leading to his mysterious Easter egg and control of the Oasis.
There's a Willy Wonka flair to it.
He was a big Willy Wonka fan, apparently. So that's what we're talking about today. David, this was your first time watching this movie, right?
It was, yeah.
And I want to hear you first for sure, because it's a repeat for us.
I am genuinely afraid of your review here.
Yeah, just feel free to hit some basics so we get a vibe.
Okay, I had low expectations going in because because I remember the build up to this movie. I remember I would listen to a lot of podcasts on a lot of different, movie and game based podcasts back then. And they were really excited about Ready Player One because the book came out in like 2010, 2011. And they were like, this book is great. And Spielberg's working on the movie. And then 2018 came out and I felt like the movie came out. And I feel like, to me, nobody really talked about it much after it came out. Like, it just kind of like, it was like a Spielberg movie that like came up and then flared back down. And all I remember hearing was like, it lived too much on nostalgia. And having now seen it, I actually was pleasantly surprised because other than being thrown off by the opening narration, I was like, this is like totally lends itself to a Spielberg movie. Like everything about this just feels like it's based on the type of movie Spielberg created. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's like getting, I'm trying to think of something comparable. It's like getting, I don't know. I can't think of a good example. I was going to try to think of a horror director to come up with a good example here, but it totally fits with his thing because it's, like a young, sort of unassuming hero who's, finds his way into this, bigger than life adventure in a way. And while there are some darker themes about it, it doesn't really delve too hard into them. Like it's a little surface level on some of those criticisms, but I don't know. It's not a takeaway. I don't feel like it is. It's not like a glaring error of the movie that I felt was a big takeaway. I really enjoyed it. I'd be really curious to watch more of the making of process, because obviously the live action stuff, I understand how Spielberg felt worked in there, but with a lot of the movie taking place in this mostly CGI seemingly creation, I really be fascinated to see how Spielberg worked with, I believe I read it was Industrial Light and Magic, and how they created the visual effects version of the world. I'd be really interested to see how that process went. The story was pretty straightforward and very easy to grasp. They didn't make it hard. They didn't make it too complicated. It did feel very potential near future. I could definitely see the appeal of the Oasis in a world where reality is just grim, and it's just like there's nothing good about your life. So why not take advantage of this seemingly very easily accessible game universe? So I understood that. It did play a lot on nostalgia. I love, spoiler alert, the end of the movie is some Hall & Oates for the credits, and so I'll always dig on that. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed it, I think, and but I'd be interested to see what you guys thought.
Okay, yeah, I'll go next. I was thinking about when we were watching it very early on. I was like, this feels even more possible today than it did when I watched it when it came out, which wasn't that long ago in 2018. But I was just looking as you were finishing up there and saw that in 2021 is when Facebook turned into Meta and announced the metaverse. So like in 2018, we didn't even know about this yet, and which is kind of hard to wrap my head around, because now it feels like that whole thing has always been there a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like there were VR headsets, obviously Oculus was a thing, but it wasn't the metaverse yet.
And there were concepts like Second Life, and those kind of game spheres.
But it wasn't this VR world like you could see in this movie. And now it's like it feels realistic, and it scared me a little bit. It's like becoming a horror movie as time goes by. I loved it when it came out. I read the book via audio book because Will Wheaton read it, and that made it extra fun. I wish I could remember the book well enough to remember some of the differences. I only remember one key difference that I think we'll probably talk about later, just because I want to know how David would have felt about it. But I really enjoyed the book. So much of the video game world, the Oasis, is inspired by Steven Spielberg's work, like you said, David. So it makes him honestly the perfect director for it, because he gets to self-reference some of his own real life work in this fictional world a little bit, like all the Back to the Future flourishes with him being one of the producers of that movie. I'm sure there were tons of others too. So it made it perfect for him. I really enjoyed it. I love the story. I think it's, the story's kind of simple in that Willy Wonka-ish way, but I think it's interesting enough, following all of the fun nostalgia rabbit holes and whatnot it goes down. I can understand why some people might call that a knock on the movie, but, and I think it is fair to say that the movie uses it as kind of a cash grab situation, but that is also like the point of the story of the book, is that society has devolved to the point where we don't create anything new anymore. We just obsess over the same pop culture from the 80s and 90s. And that's not really explored in the movie so much. But it's an important part of the story, the nostalgia part. It's not just so that they can put, the Batmobile on screen and do fun stuff like that. So I like the movie a lot. I like the book a lot. It's an A for me. I don't know where on the A.
I'm definitely interested in reading the book after having seen the movie.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Garrett? Oh,
yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan as well. Again, if you're watching the YouTube version, you can see I am holding the book. I started after we watched it. I downloaded it from Audible, and I am listening to it again. So just started that because, again, I think, David, you talked about this movie kind of falling off, and I don't disagree with that because I think that. So after watching in the theater, like I loved it. It was amazing, so much fun and nostalgia, and you could see the little Easter eggs throughout the whole thing, and it was so much fun. And then watching it this time, I was really just kind of sucked into the story. It may have been simple, but sometimes a simple story done well is all that you need because it's how you tell that simple story. And I think that it's done really well. And then yes, all of the stuff in there. Again, this movie came out in 2018. The book came out in 2011. So let us not forget that they were predicting this stuff even before all of them. So the stuff that you can see now that's come to fruition is really crazy. And I agree, Josh, you said it kind of goes into a horror movie. I see this and I get scared because of what this becomes and how people currently are so obsessed and addicted, I would say, to internet and onlineage and the ability to put, again, I have an Oculus, I've done it. It's not great, but like if you are able to make it what this is, oh man, I could definitely see how escapism would be so needed and necessary. And again, I think there's a lot of messages in this movie. You can talk about nostalgia and whether it's good or bad. I liked that there's a lot of little Easter egg stuff in there, but I didn't think it was necessary or too much. Again, because that is how the book is. So to insult the movie for that is to insult the book. That's what the book intended it for. So that's, I mean, to say that it played on nostalgia is the point, I think. So for me, I think my biggest critique, honestly, is the issue that I had with the birthmark of Olivia Cook's character and that how big of a thing that was and how little of a thing that actually is. And that doesn't really hold up well over time. But again, I think I don't remember specifics of the book, but that is similar where I remember reading that and going, I get it. People are insecure and self-conscious about certain things, but like you couldn't, that was all that you put effort into that. Like,
you have keyed in on one of the only times where I was a little taken out of the movie. Where she's like, they're like, you don't know what she actually looks like. Yeah, this is not the real me. And then they show the real her, and I'm like, oh, she's hot in the real world too. Great.
Right, because they throughout this whole movie, they tease like, oh, it could be a 300. It's not who you think it is. It's not who you think it is. And it is who you think it is. She's just, she's got a birthmark.
Honestly, a pretty killer birthmark, I got to say.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And it's not even that, like, I don't know. It's just not even that noticeable.
There was, I think, Josh.
There were scenes where you literally are like, I can't even tell it that it's there.
Right. I deal with colorblind, and so watching it on the movie, sometimes they made this whole thing about it, and then I think the next scene I was like, is it even there? Like I don't even see it.
Yeah.
So that's honestly my biggest critique that I have. As far as anything goes, I think that, you can say that things are simple or is, kind of easily strung together or whatever. And like, I don't disagree, but I also don't have a problem with that.
No, and I don't either.
It's well done and well structured.
I don't either. For me, that comment really has to do more with, I think the adapting of a book is always challenging because a book allows you to take more time and to breathe on topics. Whereas, a movie, you've got that fast runtime, and unless you're going to make it 4 hours, you can't dwell on some of the more complicated concepts of, a character who's, maybe a female character identifying in the game as a male, right? Or a concept like these people who they really don't live in good conditions, and the only way they can make money is through this virtual platform, right? So
cryptocurrency. I mean, that was also
a
thing that I thought of watching this was like cryptocurrency and how important that was. And then cryptocurrency was like, boom. And I was like, here, but like, still, it was something
it still has a potential to be a major part of the future. And so, it's not really a criticism. It's just an acknowledgement from my part that, I think that the movie really piqued my interest. And so I'm really interested in reading the book and seeing how some of those other things how some of those other concepts are explored or aren't explored. And I think that, like you said, it has a lot of nostalgia that it pulls from classic characters and, oh, look, there's the Arkham Knight, or whatever. There's Harley Quinn, right? And
the Iron Giant.
It's okay. I think it's definitely okay to use that as long as there's going to be a comment on that, like a comment on our reliance on nostalgia. And I don't think this movie quite hits that. Like, it hits a lot of other things about being more in tune with reality than a virtual existence, but it doesn't really make any sort of commentary on why it was that the 80s and 90s were so, and the 70s were so integral to our pop culture, like what it was about that time period. So that's the only thing I would be interested in, is a little bit more exploration on those topics. But that in no way takes away from how much I enjoyed this movie as it was. I really enjoyed myself.
Sure. What about, David, you talked about some of the effects. So let's talk about the Oasis. This movie bridged reality into CG. I thought it was beautiful. I thought that the effects really look good. They hold up. David, you mentioned looking at some of the special features. If you buy it, I found it yesterday. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but there is a couple of, it's almost like 2 hours of special features and behind the scenes of what they did. So I'm super interested in that now, because again, this movie really, for me, held up. I was really, really pleased with that. I was kind of worried, but it looked not obviously as crisp as like Avatar, but when they went into that world, it just kind of felt like a real world. It didn't feel like CG. It looked real, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, or at the very least, it looked like a simulation that was presenting a real, like presenting something real, as opposed to like what, like the Matrix look, the Matrix is just them. They're in reality. Like, they look like fleshy human people because that's what they are. Right. But this was like a different, this is like removes it like a little bit of people can look however they want to look. So some of those characters are going to look more realistic than others. Like Artemis doesn't look like a human. She looks like whatever, alien pixie lizard she is, but it looks great. And, Wade, is it Wade? He looks good, even though his character is like kind of like stretched a little bit and has like the weird silver hair and all that, but it looks great. And so the animation is incredible. And that's why I do think that part is really stunning. It totally fits with something that it's kind of interesting to think about if this movie had been made like in a different era of Spielberg's career, like if this book had come out sooner. I thought that stuff was really good.
Josh, what'd you think?
The visual effects are great. And what's nice about this movie is that as an audience, we're told that it's a video game. So we also have an expectation that it won't look photorealistic. So that helps it too. If it were a Matrix type situation or Avatar, you would be like, oh, it doesn't look real. But because we know that it's meant to be a video game virtual reality situation, it's perfectly fine. In fact, it's better than fine, because a lot of it is real or very realistic. One of my favorite scenes that kind of showcases the special effects is the scene where they go into The Shining. Which I want to talk about because it is completely different in the film than it is in the book. In the book, they don't even go into The Shining. It's a different movie altogether. So that was an interesting change, but I actually like it a lot. I think The Shining translates a little better. So in the book, they go into the 80s movie War Games. Do you remember that movie at all?
Do you want to play a game?
Yeah, it's not War quite games. as like mainstream and well known as The Shining, I think, which is probably why but it works well for the book. That's one of my favorite special effects scenes because I just love the way that they do the blood flood and the scary old lady, the little girls, and that all scene is real. It doesn't look like the characters do.
Yeah, it's an iconic film, so it definitely plays into this idea of like it's a choice that still makes sense with the character that they've created with this Mark Rylance, his character of what was his name? Halliday, right?
Mm-hmm.
It fits within his character, like War Games would too, but The Shining also seems to fit right in there. If this guy was just basically so at home at the time he grew up in, and like basically everything, like everything is centered around that pivotal moment of his, childhood. The Shining fits right in there.
Yeah, I agree.
War Games would be fun too, but yeah, I get it.
Another fun change from the book I wanted to see your reaction to is in the book. Mm-hmm. This story is set in Oklahoma City.
Really?
They changed it to Columbus, Ohio for the movie.
Now, why would they do that?
That's what we said. But the book is set in a futuristic Oklahoma City.
Yep. I was listening to Will Wheaton talk about I-40 and just outside of Oklahoma City all day today.
What a weird change.
I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot they did that.
So I got a bone to pick with Spielberg for that.
Oh, because first, literally makes no difference.
No, it really doesn't. That's what is weird too. It's like, if you've heard of Columbus, I think you've probably heard of Oklahoma City. It's not that obscure. And
it's not like they really take advantage of the setting of Columbus, Ohio.
Right. It doesn't matter that much. But it matters to me.
It would have been great if in this movie they were driving through Bricktown trying to hide.
Right? I want to feel seen. If Wade's little... what did he got? His little contraption, his VR contraption is inside the Golden Driller's head.
Well, that's in Tulsa.
Well, he's got to escape.
They drive all the way to Tulsa.
They might.
To get away. It's not a bad place to hide. Nobody looks there.
But they took that from us.
That's too bad. That's too bad. Why would they do that?
I know. David, did you have any scenes or anything that stood out to you, the nostalgia bits that you were like, oh, I'm excited to see that, or oh, that was really fun, or that did hit my nostalgia moment?
A lot of the like little characters that like appear in like the backgrounds and stuff are very blink and you'll miss them. I did think it was really funny that at one point you do see somebody playing as Marvin the Martian.
Yeah.
Around. I like that. I like towards the end when they're all charging. There's a big group of people who are just playing as Master Chief, and I was like, that passes the test. That definitely holds up. And there's a whole scene. T.J. Miller actually was cracking me up a lot. His character of IROC, and he shoos away Harley Quinn at one point. So those, honestly, the answer to the first riddle or whatever, the answer to the first key of going backwards, I was like, when it happened and as it was happening, I was like, yes. I was like, yes, this is a video game thing. This is totally something that I was like, I'm surprised nobody's tried it before, because I like to play games. I like to play single player games, especially. And there's nothing more fun than doing the opposite of what the game wants you to do. And if it's, hey, this is the direction you're supposed to go, going the other direction and just seeing what you can find there is like so much fun, because a lot of times they'll hide stuff the other direction. They'll hide a treasure chest, or they'll hide a, whatever it is, an extra life somewhere off the beaten path if you just go the other way. So I was like really down. I was loving that moment, and watching him going underneath the game and King Kong and the T-Rex from Jurassic Park above him. So I'd say that. I mean, in terms of nostalgia, the music really got me a lot too.
Oh yeah, there's one part when he does the Zemeckis cube and they do the I die every time. Anytime I hear the Back to the Future twinkle, then I feel it in my soul. And so that was one of my favorite parts. I really liked that a lot. Yeah,
I think the Zemeckis cube is one of my favorite bits as well. It's just very funny. And I love that it gives them, what was it, 60 seconds of time back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love to, well, it's great because Steven gets to, and they thought, I guess I was reading, they thought he'd be against it, but he gets to reference like two of his good friends in Robert Zemeckis and Stanley Kubrick within this film. And so that's those are both kind of fun little, I don't know. I assume that he enjoyed getting to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any reaction to seeing the Iron Giant? Especially, we had a meeting before we all watched this,
True.
and we had a discussion about the Iron Giant, and then boom, right there, Iron Giant.
I had seen, because I've seen clips of this movie before, so I knew that the Iron Giant appeared in the final battle. I didn't realize it was such a pivotal character within there, pivotal piece of it. So that element was spoiled for me, but it was nice for him to be there. I love that movie, The Iron Giant. It's great. I was disappointed that at no point he go super, but him doing the little Terminator thumbs up on his way out was worth it. Love the Iron Giant though, and can't go wrong there. A Gundam appearing was pretty wild. I wasn't really a Gundam kid, but I knew Gundam kids, so I bet they all crapped their pants when watching this movie.
Not me.
No.
Not a Gundam kid.
You guys not Gundam kids?
Never knew what it was. Still not really sure what it is.
I guess in the book it was like Ultraman, but they changed it to a Gundam.
What about the characters themselves? How did we feel about the team of Wade, and Artemis? The high five, yes, the high five.
I thought Wade was great. I thought Ty Sheridan as Wade was good. Was really good. That's a tough role, I think, because of how it's kind of both. It's both live action and voice acting in one movie, and I think he did good at both. And there was one moment he was kind of like standing there in the dark, and I was like, "Man, this kid looks like a young Val Kilmer." And
I can see that,
and I mean that is the nicest compliment too. He has kind of that he had that kind of quality in this movie. I kind of thought he nailed it. I thought Olivia Cooke was mesmerizing. I already mentioned TJ Miller, but everybody else I think really held their own. Rylance was good. Ben Mendelsohn was really funny and good at the same time. Like he was both funny and menacing. Not like haha funny, but just like when he needed to be. I like when he's like being like they're telling him in his ear all the stuff he needs to say, and he's being like, "Oh, I'm on your side, man. It's great." And then I love that he just turned it on a dime. Mm-hmm. And then finally, I do want to ask, what the heck was Simon Pegg, man? He was like missing for the whole movie. He was like there. I was like, and then he like just shows up at the end. I was like, what? I feel like there's more to this character here.
Simon Pegg's role is kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't, as a core group, I think they're a good group of friends. Mm-hmm. But I don't think the characters are my favorite part. I think that's my biggest critique, is that they're a little lacking in depth a bit, and that kind of hurts them. Because, like we've talked about, Artemis's whole thing with her birthmark and all that is just like, we're just not buying it as a real character trait. And then you've got Wade, who is just, his motivation isn't necessarily clear. He's just kind of along for the ride. And the same for, H, we don't get to see a lot of. And what makes it kind of double weird is that none of them really know each other that well at all. But they still kind of gel together as a team. So I like them as a team. I just wish that they had more depth in the movie.
Yeah, and I think that that is kind of a hard part, is that everybody is I feel like the story of this movie and the plot of this movie is kind of like the main thing. And like, it's not very, you don't really get the characters in their full, like completely rounded out. Right. And there's no real moments to kind of breathe in, because like outside of trying to find the Easter egg, I feel like we don't really know that much about Wade as a person. Like we, even his home life, we really only get like brief glimpses of what his actual life is outside of the Oasis. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the Oasis is his life, and the other half of it is just it's just the other piece of it. But, I do think that the characters aren't overly, they don't get a lot of exploration. And maybe you could have cut down High Five, but I don't know. It's, everybody has a role, but whether or not they fulfill it as well as they can, I don't know.
Yeah, I wish I could remember exactly the differences between the character development in the book and the movie, because obviously, again, you do get more time to breathe with certain things. I don't know if this is true. I could be wrong. So whatever. If I'm wrong, fact check me. Or the audience, not you. But I think that like IROC, TJ Miller's character, is friends with Wade, or they interact often in the book. I think that there is this more casual interaction with some of these other characters and crossovers that you just can't fit into a movie like this. So I think that would be fun. There is a Ready Player 2 that Ernest Cline came out with. I don't know anything about it. I haven't read it yet after it's come out, but I do think that they're making it into a movie. So we could be seeing a sequel for that coming up at some point in time. I don't know anything about it and if that's even true anymore, but I feel like at one point in time I did hear that was a rumor, but then a pandemic happened. So I don't know exactly if that's still true.
I did, a sequel is going, and this is so many sequels, so maybe we'll have to cover it at some point. But I was just thinking I did read that there's a potential for a sequel. And all I could think was, and I know I'm going to make the reference again, but all I could think about was, what happened to the boy who got everything he ever wanted, right? He lived happily ever after. And I don't know what you're going to do. What do you do with Willy Wonka 2? What do you do with Ready Player 2? He already owns the Oasis. So what happens now?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, we haven't read the book. I guess we could know if we read it, but
we could.
The story does exist already.
Is there anything that we would want to see? I mean, we have a chance. We could talk about it if we want to, but I have no idea because, I agree. I feel like this movie came to an end of like, it got the message across of like, you can still have this escapism, but you also need to, be a part of the real world. They shut it down on a couple of days. Yeah, they triumphed over the evil. They outlawed all the bad. And so, I don't really know what
I don't know what
happening.
The second one could be about.
I would like to see more, I think. Right. I just don't know what.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because, I mean, it feels so tied to, like, I don't know what to even do because, like, it's not like you can be like, oh, this time we put in even more referential background characters and be like what is like you have to have a good story. So I don't know. The book exists, so we can look into it, I guess. But thinking about it purely from a film's perspective, you got the synopsis. What's the synopsis?
No, you go with the film thing. I'll do
from a film standpoint, I don't know where you go because outside of what a rival game emerging and it's different and it's got maybe new addictive properties that get people hooked on it better than the Oasis did or something like that. But then what is Wade's reasoning for getting involved? Like, why does, or if you set it even further in the future and now Wade is in the perspective of Holiday, like he's the old guard and has his certain ways of doing things. And now he's confronted with a newer, younger generation and their ways of thinking. I don't know.
Okay, so this says Ready Player 2 advances the story by introducing a new technology called ONI, which allows users to experience the Oasis with all their senses and record their real-life memories for others to relive.
So they made the Oasis worse?
Yeah.
What the heck, Wade?
You can record your own... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What's the rest of it?
The winner of the contest discovers a new challenge left by James Halliday involving finding 7 shards that will revive the avatar of Kira Morrow. Wade and his friends have to complete the challenge before a rogue AI version of Halliday's avatar kills them and millions of other ONI users.
Is Halliday a villain now? I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know.
An evil AI version of Halliday's robot or Avatar.
Is this commentary on Zuckerberg?
I think it's commentary on ChatGPT versus Sydney.
Oh, come on.
I don't think that existed when the book was written.
Oh, man. So I don't know about all
Neither
that.
did some of this other stuff. Right? I think maybe Mr. Klein is indeed a fortune teller.
He's a time traveler. He's not.
He's reading the tea leaves. You know, these are his quatrains.
Mm-hmm.
Prognostication.
Is there anything else that we want to bring up for the?
No, I think that's.
I think that's it.
I think that's it. I mean, I'm struggling to think of much else to talk about. If this was directed by someone else, who would you have picked?
Honestly, Mangold. I think he would have done a good job.
J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams. Yeah. I wish I had a good example. James Wan.
Why not?
That could be
Put
fun.
it in the Conjuring world instead of The Shining. Or the Saw universe.
The Saw universe, yeah. That's.
I don't know if Jigsaw is in that movie, but Chucky sure is.
Chucky is. That one dude
Freddy
yelled,
Krueger
"Oh my God,
and
it's
Jason."
Chucky!"
Yeah.
Who would your avatar be, guys? Who would your avatar be in the Ready Player in the Oasis?
You know, I'm so boring. Even in video games that I play, when I have to make a character, I just make it look like me.
That's what I do too.
I'm not. I don't need the craziness.
I'm not very imaginative. I did sometimes if I decide to play as like a female avatar, I will look up. I'll Google like female avatar faces and just copy their codes that they use to make them.
Some people will like, you know.
But if I could play as anybody, like if I could play as any avatar that exists,
sure,
I'd be Indiana Jones.
Oh hell yeah, that'd be cool. Then I'll be Han Solo.
Oh man, Garrett, you got a Harrison Ford avatar you want to be?
I'd like to be the Harrison Ford,
the cranky therapist from Shrinking.
That's what I'd do. I would absolutely do that.
It's just the three of us.
Waffles or whatever. What does he say? Pancakes.
I love waffles.
Fuck yeah, I love waffles. Oh man, I love Harrison Ford. Okay. Well, shoot then. How much money did this sucker make?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, it raked it in. If it would have made more, if it had been set in Oklahoma City, but it opened the weekend of March 30th, 2018. And the number one spot, its 3-day total was 41.7 million. Just ahead of Acrimony, which came in with 17.1, also debuted that weekend. In its 7th week was Black Panther, brought in 11.4.
Wow.
At number 4. I know, doing pretty well. So it was a big movie. It was the biggest. That was a huge February. At number 4, you had I Can Only Imagine with 10.4. And at number 5, Pacific Rim Uprising was in its second weekend, brought in 9.3.
I never saw the sequel, but the first Pacific Rim is a really good movie.
We should maybe get around to that one day. During Kaiju. Oh, there's not a Kaijun.
Write it down.
Write it down before we forget it.
Kaiju movies in June.
June. That's gonna be great. Oh man.
Great.
Anyway, so that weekend was Easter weekend though. So when you expand to include that, Ready Player One went on to bring in 47 million in its opening 5 days.
Goodness, that feels low.
It does feel low, but the early projections were between 40 and 50 million, is what according to Wikipedia. For Steven Spielberg, it is, that's a pretty good open. Most of his films go on to make between 100 and 300 million dollars. At least his directorial debut films, he's fairly reliable. What was I? So I was going to look at the year of 2018.
We were but young spring chickens. Is that the saying?
Had no idea.
The world was still okay.
Everything, hey, 2018, we were,
it was okay.
It was fine. I have good memories of that year. So for the year of 2018, domestically in the United States, the number one movie of the year was Black Panther, which brought in $700 million. domestically, which is a lot of money for any movie. And then at number 2, you had Avengers Infinity War with 678. Incredibles 2 at number 3 with 608.
Look at that year.
That's 3 huge movies right off the top.
Goodness.
Number 4 movie of the year was Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom with 417.
We didn't like that
and
one.
Then Aquaman. Aquaman was number 5 with 335.
Sorry, Arch.
The Ready Player One.
Never watched it again, to be honest with you.
Ready Player One would finish in the number 24 spot with 137, just behind Ocean's 8 and just ahead of Bumblebee.
Wow, we reviewed Ocean's 8.
We did. You
go check that out at so many sequels.com.
Yeah, I love the Ocean's.
We did not do Bumblebee, but I really liked Bumblebee, for the record.
Some other movies from 2018 that we have reviewed on this list are Halloween 2018.
A classic.
Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. We also reviewed A Quiet Place. Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Yeah, Ralph, that was a good one.
We did Wreck-It Ralph. I don't even remember that.
You guys don't remember?
It was Wreck-It Ralph for a video game one.
It was before I came
in.
It was
before I came in, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And then we've also reviewed Mission Impossible Fallout.
Man, we really covered
2018. We've done a lot of movies.
Bing, bang, boom.
And I think that's it.
Good.
I think, we may have done more, but I'm not going to read anymore. So that's it. Don't do the letterbox game.
All right. So this is going to be interesting, I think, because I've tried to look through some of the most popular reviews already, and it's all over the place. Okay. So some popular reviews from Letterboxd include this 0.5-star review that just calls the movie Funko Pop Futurism. This 2.5-star review that says this could and probably should have been worse. A 1-star review that says in all caps, read a book. Here's a 4-star. It doesn't really say anything of note, though, but it was good. 3.5 stars. The Shining sequence won me over. And then finally, 3 stars. It's like Spielberg had a vision of hell, but he also wants to make sure we still had fun. So good luck deciphering that.
Man, that's tough.
I thought I came in thinking it was going to be high, but I am regretting that thought.
I think
that thought.
It definitely seems like this movie came out at the wrong time. Like if this movie came out in the early 2000s, if this came out in the early 2000s, people would be like, wow, a masterpiece from Spielberg. But now it came out at a point where
even now that people are more familiar and comfortable with the idea of VR.
Yeah. Well, I think to me, it's the cynicism of it all. It's
that's part of it.
People are really like, I think people are like seeing through what the nostalgia aspect of the movie could be and only seeing it for Warner Brothers just shoving as much stuff as they can of their properties in a movie.
Space Jam, a new legacy.
Exactly.
Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. Although Roger Rabbit was done well.
True.
I'm talking about Space Jam. That one was not done well.
I'm gonna guess it's like a 3.4.
We got a 3.4 on the board. I'm gonna go to a 3.0.
Oh.
Ooh. Oh man.
And now I'm gonna look because I'm
gonna hit it right in the middle with a 3.5.
That's not the middle, is it?
That's
outside.
No, it's not.
Okay, we got a 3.0, a 3.4. Is that what you said, David?
Yeah.
A 3.5. Okay. We got to do a tiebreaker because it is a 3.2, which puts both me and David 0.2 off.
Oh man, it's a 3.2.
Yep.
Yeah.
What should we do for a tiebreaker?
We could always go to the RT, the Rotten Tomatoes, or whatever Garrett is doing.
Yeah.
because he will run it anyway.
How do you feel about the 3.2? Do you think that's fair?
I think the 3.2 is fair. I think some of those reviews I read were a little extreme. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a half-star movie. I mean, my personal score is going to be higher than 3.2, but I get why people would look at it and think that it's just kind of hollow consumerism, but I think I want to give it a little more credit than that.
Yeah, I think I think the description of hell, but Spielberg wanted us to have fun that's a funny description.
The whole thing
that has a component of it. Yeah.
It's not a good world. Like the book is not like, oh, this is great that life is like this now. Like the whole point is that the world is so bad.
Yeah, it is
that the life in the metaverse is better.
Yeah, it's very much presented as the early days of a dystopian future.
Right. It's not like people are just so addicted that it's like that. It's like,
it's cool.
It's cool, but it's also the whole world lives in stacked up trailers. It's not good. Yeah.
Okay, the tiebreaker.
Okay.
You guys, I am looking for the Letterboxd review ranking for The Shining.
Oh, that's a clever one.
That's good because I had seen the Rotten Tomato score.
Oh, good. Oh gosh, I've never. I gotta admit on this show, never seen The Shining. I'm scared of it.
Oh, it's scary.
Now I did attempt to read the book, and I read a good chunk of it, but I found it a little dull. Sorry, Stephen King. I have read many of your books that I do love, but The Shining, I couldn't really finish it.
I've also never seen the movie. I hate to admit it. Maybe that'd be a good one. Maybe that'd be a good one for So Many Scares.
Well, you know what? Maybe we should.
I'm gonna get. You go ahead.
3.9.
I'm gonna say 4.1. I'm gonna guess it's in the 4.1 banger category.
Banger 4.1.
All right, 3.9 for Josh.
Yeah.
4.1, David.
Mm-hmm. What if it's 4.9?
All right. Well, cover your eyes, look through your fingers, because unfortunately, David has won again.
Oh no! David wins again.
Scary wide lead that he continues to amass.
No, I'm not that far ahead this year.
Well, that's good.
It's only April.
I'm not going to give myself. It's a 4.1.
No, it is a 4.3.
It's 4.3.
4.3 for The Shining.
That movie must be real scary.
Holy moly!
It's good. It's a good movie.
It's another one for me. So we're pretty close. We're pretty close in this score far this year. So I'm in the lead with 7. You guys are tied at 4, and then Andrew / the guests are at 2 and 1.
Okay.
Fair.
Okay.
There we go. Another great week, you guys.
What are our final ratings?
Being my first time, I'm going to give it 4 stars. I enjoyed myself, and I don't think it's Spielberg's best, but I really had a good time.
Okay.
It is a 4.5 for me. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. It may not be the most depth. It may not. Again, it's not necessarily based on overall filmmaking. It's how did I enjoy it? And my biggest critique walking away is the birthmark thing. And that's all I have to say is that I'm really frustrated and irritated with that. Everything else may not have been deep or anything, but I had so much fun and I was sucked into the story. And it is my opinion that it is a great adaptation of the book, which I also loved. And I think the things that they did differently, they did really well. So no issues whatsoever other than a few little critiques.
Interesting.
Not too bad.
Interesting, because I've heard it's not necessarily a great adaptation, but it is a good movie. That's what
I really can't remember how I felt.
It's not necessarily a great adaptation, but I think that what they're doing and what they did is fun. It gets the message a point, and it gets the nostalgia bits, and maybe that's part of it. But you know what? I don't care.
No. That's fine.
My original rating was a 4.5, and I almost talked myself down to 4, but I'm gonna keep the 4.5. I almost was like,
There you go.
I think that I watched it and I was too excited afterward. But no, I'm going to keep it. So, 2 4.5s and a 4. I think that's pretty good. It's well above Letterboxd. So, sorry.
It's true.
Sorry to your mothers.
Yeah, algorithm can't come through every time, you know?
Is this the final week of Game Night Month?
No, I think we have one more to go.
We have one more
Okay.
because we had a fan.
Yeah.
We had another
That's
fan
right.
choice
That's right. That's
episode.
right. Well, we won't tell you what that is
because
yet.
we were stuck. Yeah, we were stuck between 3. It was. I'll tell you what the 3 are, but I won't tell you what one. We were stuck between the original Super Mario Bros. With Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo.
Johnny Legs.
The original.
Love Bob
Johnny
Hoskins.
Legs. I love Bob Hoskins too. That's why the movie's great. Both of them are fantastic. And I'll hear none of it. And Dennis Hopper gives his all. Dennis Hopper gives his all.
Yeah.
Everything into King Koopa.
We got one more week of Game Night Month for you all to wrap up this theme, and then we will have something more. I don't want to tell you yet, but we have plans. We have lots of plans. We have great plans for old movies, for new movies, and everything in between. So go
and present movies.
and present movies. Be sure to go check us out online at somanysequels.com. There you can find our entire catalog of all of our episodes, all those 2018 movies that you heard earlier that we did. You can find them there. You can also find links to our social media channels there, especially, but not only, our Patreon, where if you sign up to join, you can get Discord access and hang out with us there and find out what we're working on, talk to us about movies, and help us, structure the show. We've been turning to the Discord lately to help us pick movies lately and some other fun stuff. So it's a good place to be. And you can find all that again at somanysequels.com. We will be back next week. Bye. Live long and prosper.
Nanu, or whatever.
Nanu, that's what he said. Dang it.